Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, we like to seek the blessings of Radha Mother, Brother Shyam Sundar Krishna Balaram Gaunitai, Srila Prabhupada, and some devotees, so that we can share a little bit about Srila Rupa Goswami. So today is his disappearance day. And who is Rupa Goswami? So as Naniben was saying, Manjaris are in the spiritual world. So here we have Rupa Manjari. There she is. So this is the spiritual world, Golok, Vrindavan, and Radha Krishna is the center of worship. And then around Radha Krishna, the Astasaki, the gopis. And then just behind the gopis are the Manjaris. The Manjaris are, they serve the gopis in order to serve Radha and Krishna. And they're very, very fortunate because Radha Krishna actually takes them into their confidence because they're very, very young and innocent and beautiful, and they are witness to pastimes that nobody else can witness. So it's just one of the most amazing things. And we're very lucky that Rupa Goswami, we are following in the line of Rupa Goswami. We're known as Rupa Nugas. So devotees of Rupa Goswami. Shri Rupsi Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Jiva Gopal Bhatta Salman. Srila Rupa Goswami has been attributed with the honor of being the person who realized the Manobhistam. Shri Rup Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Dadati Swapadanti. The innermost heart's desire of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Rupa Goswami, the foremost of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, is an incarnation of Rupa Manjari, the most important of the 8 confidential maidservants of Srimati Radharani in the eternal spiritual Vrindavan. So here we'll see that there are 8 of these Manjaris. These are all, of course, there's millions and billions of Manjaris, but these 8 are prominent and regarded to be the head of the Manjaris. And Rupa is the head of the 8. It is said that without taking shelter of Rupa Goswami, one cannot enter into the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, and without taking the shelter of Rupa Manjari, one cannot enter the confidential pastimes of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. Rupa Manjari's lineage can be traced back to Karnataka, South Bharat, where his Saraswata Brahmin descendants held influential positions. Rupa Goswami's nephew, Jiva Goswami, has explained in his Laghu Toshani that Rupa's descendants were of the Bharadvaj Gotra and were learned in the Yajur Ved. A Brahmin called Sarvagyan was the 7th in the ascending genealogical line of Rupa Goswami and was known by the title Jagat Guru. He was a king as well as a learned scholar. His son, Aniruddha, was also an acclaimed scholar. Aniruddha had 2 sons, Harihara, and Rupeshwar. While Rupeshwar was knowledgeable in the Vedic literatures, his brother, Harihar, became expert in weaponry and politics. When their father died, the kingdom was divided between the 2 sons. However, Harihar seized Rupeshwar's land by force and forced the family to migrate to Paurastya-desh. Rupeshwar's son, Padmanabh, was spiritually and materially very successful. Padmanabh relocated his family to Naihati on the banks of the Ganga. Padmanabh had 18 daughters, wow, and 5 sons, the youngest being Mukunda. In the course of time, Mukunda's son, Kumaradev moved to Jeshore. His sons were Santosh, that's Rupa, 1489, Amar, that's Sanatan Goswami, as we know them, 1488, and Srivala, that's Anupam. Anupam is not so famous because he passed away young. So there were three children, three sons. On the demise of Kumardev, the three sons moved to Sakurma, near the capital of Godadesh, Bengal, where they continued their studies. The three brothers studied the Nyaya Shastras, treatise on rhetoric, from the famous logician Vasudev Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and his brother Madhusudan Vidyavachaspati. They also studied Sanskrit, Arabic, Persian. Even at a young age, they became quite learned in all of the scriptures. Due to their noble characters and academic proficiency, Rupa and his elder brother Sanatan were later forced into government service by the Sultan of Bengal, Alauddin Hussain Shah, which led to their excommunication from the Hindu society by the Orthodox caste Brahmins of Gouda. Rupa became the Sultan's chief secretary, the Abhir Khas, while Sanatan became the state revenue minister, Sakara Malik. So they became very, very influential in the government, the Muslim government at that time. Even though they were Brahmins, they were effectively forced to join the government because of their great influence, intelligence. The Guru, Maulabi of Hussain Shah, was supposedly capable of seeing into the future. Hussain Shah asked him about the prosperity of his kingdom. The Maulabi replied, "There are two extremely learned Brahmin boys who are endowed with all good qualities. If you appoint them as your ministers, then you will have a very opulent kingdom." That's why Rupa and Sanatan were brought into the administration of that king or that ruler. Rupa and his brothers made their residence at the state capital of Ramakeli, and in 1514, they met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the first time. So 1514, so that's like when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was 40, 24 plus 26 plus 14, yeah. 30, sorry, no, 40, that's right, 40. Having heard of the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rupa Goswami had written a letter to him praying for his darshan. In his reply, Mahaprabhu explained to him, as a woman who is attached to another man makes a show of being devoted to her husband, so you should, while being internally attached to the lotus feet of Krishna, externally make a show of being engaged in your worldly duties. Krishna will bestow his mercy on you very soon. While residing at Ramakeli, Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatan were visited by many Brahmins and Pandits from Navadvip, Karnataka, and various other parts of Bharat, because they were very learned, although they had been excommunicated from the Brahmin community because they were serving the Muslims. Still, they were very, very intelligent. They were always careful to receive these guests and serve them in a befitting manner. They lived in very opulent surroundings at Ramakeli. Their court, which rivaled that of Lord Indra, was always attended by Brahmins, Pandits, and from many lands, as well as poets, singers, musicians, and dancers. At great expense, they maintained these guests and were always very careful that no one was disrespected in any way. They were always engaged in studying the Shastras and could establish and defeat the same philosophical arguments alternatively. So they were so good at arguing, they could even argue that there is no God, of course, and win the argument. Near their house were solitary gardens of Kadamba and other trees, in the middle of which were Radha Kund and Shyam Kund. There they would meditate on Vrindavan pastimes of Shri Shri Radha Shyam, and thus losing their patience. A constant stream of tears would flow from their eyes. They were always absorbed in the service of Sri Madan Mohan and constantly assuaged their grief by praying for his mercy. They constantly begged for their, constantly increasing their grief by praying for their mercy. Hearing of the pastimes of Sri Gaura Sundar at Nadia, they were always meditating. When will they get the darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which they did in 1514? So this is all before they met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They were great Vaishnavas, great devotees already, because of their past. Approaching the Lord humbly, they prayed to him to somehow rescue them from their bonded state. Lord Chaitanya assured them that now they had a surrender to Krishna, they would soon be delivered and would be able to join his Sankirtan movement. Rupa and Anupam immediately decided to go, and they wrote a letter to Sanatan telling him of their plans and asking him to join them in Vrindavan. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached to Rupa and Sanatan and said, yes, you should go now to Vrindavan, excavate the holy places there. And they immediately agreed. And they wrote to their brother, Sanatan, telling them of their plans. They also told him they had left 10,000 gold coins in case he was in need of financial help. Now, Sanatan was the treasurer of the ministry, he was the treasurer of the government. And the Sultan didn't like these wonderful personalities leaving. So they left by hiding, by deception. Later, when Sanatan was thrown into prison by the Sultan for disobedience, he used this money to bribe the jailer and escape to Varanasi to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So somehow or other, they managed to escape. After some months, both Rupa and Anupam were freed from service. Rupa loaded all his wealth onto the 2 boats and left with his brother Anupam for their ancestral home at Faityabad in Jeshore, where they distributed it. They then sent 2 messengers to Puri in Orissa to get news of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his plans. The messengers returned with the news that Mahaprabhu had already left Puri for Vrindavan. On his return trip from Vrindavan, Chaitanya stopped at the holy city of Prayag, Allahabad. It was there that Rupa and Anupam met him for the 2nd time. At the historic Dashwamedha Ghat, Sri Chaitanya imparted confidential instructions to Rupa Goswami and explained in detail all the fundamental principles of the doctrine of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Rupa Goswami was specifically commanded by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to carry out 2 tasks: to find and establish the lost, ancient, and original deities of Lord Krishna, as well as to rediscover and restore the holy places associated with his Leela in Vrindavan, and to write and preach Gaudiya Vaishnava theology. He then sent Rupa Goswami to Vrindavan to carry out these tasks. So Rupa Goswami arrived first in Vrindavan, along with his elder brother, Sanatan Goswami, in the year 1516, after receiving the direct orders of Lord Chaitanya. Through his writings, Rupa Goswami chalked out the perfect spiritual path for all the followers of Lord Chaitanya down through the ages. It was Rupa Goswami who was more than anyone else firmly established the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. He wrote a large number of important books on the science of Bhakti Yoga. And after disappearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in 1934, Rupa became the undisputed leader of all the Gaudiya Vaishnava in the world. Actually, it should be 1524, he passed away. Even today, all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are known as Rupa Nugas or followers of Rupa Goswami. After spending some time in Vrindavan, Rupa and Anupam left to visit Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Puri. It is believed that on this long and arduous journey, Anupam left his body. On his way to Puri, Rupa Goswami started to write a drama about Lord Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, in Dwarka. On arrival at a village named Satyabhamapur in Orissa, he had a dream wherein a beautiful woman appeared before him and asked him to write a separate drama about her. When Rupa Goswami awoke the next morning, he realized that she was Lord Krishna's most possessive queen, Satyabhama, and decided to write a separate drama about the Lord's Dwarka pastimes. On Rupa's arrival at Jagannath Puri, he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and showed the Lord the outline of these two dramas. The Lord confirmed that writing two dramas, mixing the Leelas of Vrindavan and Dwarka was not proper, as there was a vast difference between them. In Vrindavan, the Lord enjoys Parakiya Ras, whereas in Dwarka, he enjoys Swakiya Ras. So the mood in Vrindavan is completely different from the mood in Dwarka. And to combine that into one book, two dramas, would be Rasabas. It wouldn't mix very well. Lord Chaitanya as well as Ramananda Ray were delighted to read the early drafts of the two dramas, which were eventually called Vidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava, respectively. These two works are considered by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas to be the most important dramatic literatures in Sanskrit language. Rupa Goswami stayed 10 months in Puri and received further instructions on devotional service from Lord Chaitanya. The Lord then asked Rupa to return to Vrindavan and complete the task of rediscovering the lost holy places of Lord Krishna's pastimes. On returning to Vrindavan, Rupa Goswami discovered at Brahmkund the deity of Brinda Devi, from whom the town of Vrindavan gets its name. This deity was later moved to Kamyavan. Rupa Goswami then discovered the famous Govindji deity and immediately established Lord Govindji's worship on a grand scale. On hearing the good news of Rupa's progress, Lord Chaitanya sent some of his best men to assist Rupa in serving the deity of Govindji and establishing the Lord's mission in Vrindavan. So this is Radha Govindji. This is actually, they are in Jaipur. They were installed in Vrindavan, but when the Mughals came and did a lot of damage, these deities were moved to Jaipur. And they are the central showpiece or central attraction of Jaipur. Early in the morning, when you go there, you see thousands of devotees walking to this temple, Radha Govindji temple, to have darshan at Mangalati time, 4:30 in the morning. And these deities are also established, or at least a replica, which I regard to be exactly the same, in Vrindavan. And they're in the Radha Govindji temple, which we always go and visit. Beautiful deities. Shortly, Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis were joined by Raghunath Das Goswami, Gopal Bhatt Goswami, Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, and Jiva Goswami. These great personalities became famous as the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Jiva Goswami, who was a son of Rupa's brother Anupam, became the most important disciple of Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami's worshipable deity in Vrindavan was Sri Govind Dev. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also instructed the Goswamis to rediscover the holy places of Krishna's pastimes in Braj and establish worship of his Shri Vigraha. So one day, Rupa Goswami was sitting on the banks of the Yamuna, lamenting that they hadn't been able to properly carry out Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions. It was known to them that Sri Krishna's grandson, Vajranab, had installed a number of deities in Braj among them Haridev, Madan Mohan Dev, Gopinath Dev, and Sri Govind Dev. Sri Rupa had tried to locate these deities, but to no avail. As he was sitting and thinking in this way, a very beautiful cowherd boy came along and asked him, "Hey, Swami, why do you look so sad?" Hearing the boy's cheerful voice, Sri Rupa melancholy revere was broken, and his heart felt gladdened. Rupa Goswami replied that he was feeling sad because he hadn't been able to follow Mahaprabhu's instructions properly. The cowherd boy told him, "Swami, please come with me. I know where what you're looking for is." Then the boy brought him to Gomatila and explained, "Every day a cow comes on top of this hill and pours her milk down here. There is a good chance you will find what you're looking for inside." Then the boy disappeared. Rupa Goswami began to reflect, who was that cowherd boy? And where did he run off so suddenly? He was positive that Sri Govinda must be where the boy said, and quickly went to the village of cowherd men nearby and excitedly told them everything that had happened. The cowherd men hurriedly gathered up some spades and hatchets and came running to Gomatila. Digging where Rupa Goswami indicated, they saw, after removing a small amount of earth, the all-enchanting form of Sri Govinda. They all erupted in shouts of ecstasy. "Hari, Hari!" Sri Govinda has again manifested himself. Sri Rupa, with tears flowing from his eyes, fell down at the lotus feet of Sri Govinda to offer his obeisances, all the while reciting prayers and hymns. Very quickly, the news spread, and the other Goswamis floating in the ocean of joy came there also. Soon an incessant flow of people from all quarters began to arrive, carried by waves of joy. Rupa Goswami immediately sent word to Mahaprabhu in Puri concerning this auspicious event. Sri Gaurasund, along with his associates, couldn't contain their ecstasy on receiving this happy news. Meanwhile, the Brahmins performed the abhishek of the deity and began to prepare offerings of bhoga from the milk, yogurt, rice, flour, and vegetables, which the villagers were bringing. Mahaprabhu sent Kashishwar Pandit from Puri to assist in the worshipping the deity. A glorious temple was eventually built for Govinda in Vrindavan, and it was like 7 stories high. It was huge, beautiful temple. But the envious Aurangzeb, he destroyed the top floors of the temple. He could see them from a very long distance, and he decided to cut down the size of the temple. And currently, the original Radha Govind deities are presently being worshipped in Jaipur, Rajasthan. Overjoyed that Sri Govindji and Madan Mohan had reappeared, and thus the responsibilities which Mahaprabhu had given them were generally being carried out, Sri Rupa and Sanatan began to compose the Bhakti Shastras in compliance with Mahaprabhu's further instructions. After completing the Vidagdha Madhav and Lalita Madhav and various other books, Rupa Goswami began to work on Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, and that is translated as Nectar of Devotion by our Srila Prabhupada. One day, Vallabhacharya of the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya came to visit Rupa. After offering him a seat, the two of them began discussing Krishna Katha. In the house of their conversation, Rupa presented the opening verse of Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu to Vallabhacharya to read. After studying this verse for some time, Vallabhacharya commented that there were a few mistakes. At this time, Jiva Goswami, who had arrived from Bengal a few days before, was fanning his uncle Rupa. Jiva was very learned in all the sastras, and he was not happy with Vallabhacharya's remarks. But Rupa Goswami, he was very happy because he knew Vallabhacharya as a senior devotee. Anyway, Vallabhacharya went to the Yamuna to take his bath. Jiva Goswami followed him. on the pretext of fetching some water. And he inquired from the Acharya as to what actually were the mistakes in that verse. Vallabhacharya, after discussing some points with him, was amazed at the boy's scholarship. After a few days, Vallabhacharya again came to Rupa, and after inquiring about the boy scholar Jiva, he greatly praised his learning. After Vallabh had gone to his residence, Rupa called Jiva and spoke to him. Those whom we respect as our, so basically, Vallabhacharya accepted that there were no mistakes in the composition of the verse by Rupa Goswami. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Good.
That's problem.
Oh, okay. Can you see our screen at all?
No.
Okay. Yes. Good.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, so then Rupa Goswami, he said to Jiva, those whom we respect as our guru and to whom we offer our obeisances, you are ready to debate with on an equal level? These are not at all polite. What he spoke was for my benefit, but you could not tolerate that. You should return home. And when you control your mind, you can come back to Vrindavan. So Rupa Goswami is very humble, and he told Jiva off. But actually, Rupa Goswami inside was happy because Jiva Goswami was such a intelligent devotee, and he actually challenged Vallabhacharya. But in order to show Jiva that humility is important, he chastised him. Hearing this decision of his uncle, Jiva left that place and decided to proceed eastwards. So he was not happy. He was sad because his uncle was his life to him. When he came to an old dilapidated temple at Nandagat, he sat down and began to cry. Soon the villagers began to worry, such a handsome young man, but he sits there crying for so long without taking food. After a while, Sanatana Goswami came by and the villagers informed Sanatana of the boy's presence at the old temple. Sanatana went there and saw his nephew, who explained everything that had happened. Sanatana Goswami pacified him and, taking his nephew with him, went to see his brother and explained everything. Rupa Goswami immediately called Jiva. Seeing his forlorn and pale appearance, he gradually nursed him back to health and happy state of mind. Then he entrusted him with proofreading and various literatures which he had composed. Just as he was very strict with his young nephew, so also he was very affectionate and loving. The relationship was an ideal example of how the Guru and Shishya behave together. So this is Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana was the elder brother, Rupa was the younger. When Rupa had finished writing Lalita Madhav, he gave it to Raghunath Das Goswami to read. Lalita Madhav is a description of Krishna's pastimes after he left Vrindavan. Is thus full of sentiments in the mood of separation. By reading this book, Raghunath Das Goswami began to cry day and night, having become completely absorbed in love in separation to the point of being ready to leave his body. When Rupa Goswami requested Raghunath Das Goswami to give him the manuscript back so that he could correct it, Raghunath Das held on to it very tightly, not saying anything, refusing to part with it. After considering what to do, Rupa Goswami composed Dana de Keli Kau Mudi. And that is the pastimes of collecting tax. And he managed to exchange this manuscript with Lalita Madhav. By reading Danakeli Kaumudi, full of narrations of Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes, Raghunath Das Goswami became totally absorbed in the ecstasy of happiness. Because that book is not about separation. It's about how the divine couple interact in Vrindavan. After the reappearance of Sri Govind, Madan Mohan, and Yogpit, Sri Rupa began to contemplate where Vrindadevi might be. One day she came to him in a dream. I am on the banks of Brahmakund. You can have my darshan there. The next morning, after finishing his bath and puja, he came to Brahmakund and began to look everywhere. Suddenly, he saw a heavenly damsel whose bodily effulgence defeated the luster of gold. All the directions were illuminated by this glow, and the atmosphere created by her presence was very sweet and cooling. So Rupa Goswami offered his dandavats and prayers and hymns. In this way, Vrindadevi reappeared in Brajabhumi. Shri Gaura Sundar established the glories of Shri Vrajadam through the two generals, Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis. Within their hearts, he awakened through oral transmission the knowledge of what was in his own heart. Rupa Goswami has established in this world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya. When will he give me the shelter of his lotus feet? So this is what we sang actually, Rupa Srinarottam Das Thakur. He wrote many, many books, many, many books. And these are the two dramas he wrote. And the third drama he wrote here to satisfy Raghunath Das Goswami. And this book here, Bhakti Rasamrita, is very, very important book. Ujjwala Neelamala Mani is very important book as well. They're all very important. So this is, he used to translate and Radharani would come and bless him. Radha came in disguise to give Rupa milk, rice and sugar so that he could cook a sweet rice preparation for Sanatana Goswami. When Sanatana tasted the sweet rice, he felt divine ecstasies invade his body. Upon learning how he had received the ingredients, however, Sanatana forbade Rupa to ever cook sweet rice again, so that Radharani would not have to go to any trouble on his behalf. So this is one of the things about the Goswamis, especially Rupa or Sanatana. His mood was we should never disturb the divine couple, Radha and Krishna. So Rupa Goswami, he wanted to serve his older brother, wanted to make sweet rice, but he had nothing. Simple Goswami, all he used to do was write. But Radharani came and gave him the ingredients. He cooked. And Sanatana, when he found out what he had done, he said, no, 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 don't ever cook sweet rice again. Rupa Goswami also came to Srila Prabhupada in the middle of the night one time when Prabhupada was begging for mercy to reassure him that his mission would be successful. Once having divine vision of Radha Krishna, Rupa Goswami laughed. So sometimes they used to sit in meditation and they would enjoy the Leela that was happening in Golok. And one time Krishna was in the swing with Radha and he was swinging it so much that the swing went all the way around and Radha had to grab hold of Krishna. And that pastime, Rupa Goswami just laughed. But at that time, an old Brahmin was walking by and he thought Rupa Goswami was laughing at him. So he felt offended. And suddenly Rupa Goswami lost the vision. And he wondered what happened. So Sanatana Goswami advised him, let's organize a feast. Whoever doesn't come is unhappy with you. Then we'll know something. So they organized a feast. This one Brahmin didn't come. So then Rupa Goswami went to him and said to him, what happened? Why are you unhappy with me? And the Brahmin said, yes, actually, I was walking by you one time and you laughed at me. And I was thinking, why is he laughing at me? And then Rupa Goswami explained, no, I wasn't laughing at you. I was enjoying the Leela of Radha Krishna. So then his visions returned again. So Rupa Goswami's disappearance day is today, the 12th day of the bright fortnight of Shravan in 1564. And his Samadhi and Bhajan Kutir is in the Radha Damodar temple. So Naniben, we should be able to go and have darshan here, hopefully. And
yes.
Very beautiful Samadhi, really beautiful.
Looking forward to it. Where is this Samadhi? What was the last time?
Radha Damodar temple, where Prabhupada spent many years translating. Yeah. And we will be able to see from Prabhupada's kitchen into this courtyard where Rupa Goswami's Samadhi is.
Yes.
Very powerful, very, very powerful.
Wow.
And this is the deity in that samadhi. Rupa Goswami ki jai. So thank you, devotees, for listening. And any questions, any comments?
I get a bit confused about the dates when Prabhuji and all this, when all these Goswamis appearing and disappearing.
Very true. There's a lot of them. And yeah. But he stayed for another, 64, he disappeared. So 18 more years he stayed after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left for the spiritual world. Hang on.
No, Chaitanya was left in 1524.
Yeah, 1524. So 40 years. He stayed a long time.
40 years, yeah.
A long, long time. And he did so much seva for us, really. A lot of these sites were excavated by Rupa, Sanatan, all the 6 Goswamis. So when we go, this because of their kindness that we are able to have darshan at these places.
It's amazing how they found different places, isn't it? How would they have looked and where would they have?
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself found Radha Kunshamkun, and then Raghunath Das Goswami excavated it. But there was a lot of divine intervention of how they excavated those places.
Must be.
Yeah. And for us, really, for our benefit, they did that for our benefit. And we are enjoying now the benefits of that. No, thank you. Looking forward to hopefully getting there and
definitely
darshan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yes, you were there recently, no?
No, long time. Prabhu, recently, Prabhu, I go to Hirkodam, that area where is the Rupa Goswami was meditation.
You went there, yes.
So nice place, so nice place. And still there, they give the prasadam kheer. Kheer means payas. In Bengali, it's payas. Always a nice place.
Wait, Bangladesh? Oh, I see, at this place. Okay, so you went there, huh?
Yeah.
You can guide us where it is.
It is Nandagram, after Nandagram.
Okay.
After Nandagram, you have to go. And this is before was forest, now it's not forest, but far away from the village or something, totally detached. But that temple is very nice, good.
Oh, thank you for sharing. I'd never even realized that it was serving the same sweet rice, eh?
Yeah, still they distribute the same.
Okay,
rice.
Thank you for sharing. Hopefully we'll have time to go there.
Temple.
Okay, good. Thank you for sharing. Very good, excellent. Thank you. Okay, so we can stop there. Shri Rupa Goswami ki jai, Rupa Manjari ki jai, Thai Gaura Premanande.